Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. Pakistan launches missile strikes into Iran to target what it calls terrorist hideouts following cross-border attacks by Tehran. Our other headlines: Israel's president says his country is fighting Hamas to protect other countries in his address to the World Economic Forum. Gaza officials say more than a dozen people have now been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a house in Rafah, a designated safe zone. Modernise industry and get those consumers to spend more. China sets out its plans to drive growth and development. And the police become protesters. France sees a series of demonstrations as officers demand more money before they work on the Olympics. Pakistan has fired missiles into Iran, killing 9 people 2 days after an attack on its territory. The country's foreign minister says the strikes targeted terrorist hideouts. Tehran has expressed strong condemnation. This comes after Iran launched a missile and drone attack on western Pakistan on Tuesday, claiming to have hit a militant group. Our correspondent Daniel Khan is in Islamabad.
Pakistan says it has successfully carried out precision military strikes using killer drones and rockets in Iran's Sistan's Balochistan province, targeting what it described as hideouts of the Balochistan Liberation Army and Liberation Front. Pakistan's foreign ministry said a number of terrorists were killed during the intelligence-based operation. It comes after Tehran said it had struck targets inside Pakistan on Tuesday that it alleged were bases of separatist militant groups. Pakistan downgraded its diplomatic ties with Iran, recalling its ambassador from Tehran and expelling the Iranian envoy in Islamabad. The two countries have had rocky ties in the past, but these strikes are the highest profile cross-border intrusions in recent years and come amid growing fears about instability in the Middle East. China has offered to mediate between Pakistan and Iran, while Pakistan has emphasized its commitment to national security and sovereignty. The Pakistani Prime Minister and Foreign Minister have cut short their overseas trips, while the president has called for dialogue between the two neighbors, but stressed that there will be no compromise on national security. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Islamabad.
Well, let's talk to our correspondent, Ehsan Kavani. Ehsan, where did these missiles hit exactly, and what more has Tehran been saying?
Iranian provincial officials say in the early hours of Thursday, a village in the Iranian southeastern province of Sistan and Balochistan, which was 4 kilometers away from the border, was hit by 3 drones from Pakistan. 4 houses were destroyed, and according to state reports, 10 Pakistani nationals, including women and children, were killed. Iran's foreign ministry immediately condemned the attack and announced Pakistan's chargé d'affaires. The tension comes as it was less than a week ago that a Pakistani naval fleet docked at Iran's southern port city of Bandar Abbas, and on Wednesday, the fleet participated in a joint military exercise with the Iranian forces in the Persian Gulf. Regional as well as national security matters to both Iran and Pakistan, and following Pakistan's kind of tit-for-tat missile attack, officials both in Tehran and Islamabad seem to be willing to exercise restraint and to prevent further war of words. After Iran targeted ISIL bases in Syria and also Iraq's Kurdistan and the terrorist strongholds in Pakistan, what Iranian officials are clearly saying is that Iran is militarily capable of pinpointing any targets in the range of 1,500 kilometers, and no matter where the country will react to any threats against its national security. The Iranian army and the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps are also going to hold joint air defense exercise across Iran within the next few days.
Ehsan, thank you for that. Our correspondent, Ehsan Kavani. The United Nations says the population of Gaza's city of Rafah has jumped from 300,000 before this conflict to around 1.2 million people as displaced Palestinians seek shelter there in overcrowded camps and tents. Officials in the enclave say the latest Israeli airstrikes in Rafah's designated safe zone has killed more than a dozen people. Let's talk to our correspondent, Noor Harazin. Noor, what more can you tell us about these latest Israeli airstrikes?
Well, I am in Rafah now, and even though the city of Rafah is considered as a green area where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, actually, as you mentioned, now more than 1.2 million people are residing in Rafah seeking safety. However, a series of Israeli strikes overnight and also at the early hours of this morning killed 16 people from the Az-Zamili home, including women and children. Also talking about the latest on the ground here from Khan Yunis city, and only in the past 2 hours the Israeli forces bombed several neighborhoods in Khan Yunis, Qizan al-Najjar, Jurtellut, and also Khuza'a. Palestinian medical sources are talking about dozens that were killed in these airstrikes. However, the paramedics in Khan Yunis are not able to move around and go rescue the people who got injured or killed in these latest airstrikes. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 127 Palestinians were killed in Gaza over the past 24 hours, and this...
I'm terribly sorry about that. I think we've probably lost the line there to our correspondent, Noor Harazin in Gaza. We might return to her later in the programme, but in the meantime, we'll carry on with the rest of today's news. And an aerial threat over the Red Sea has prompted Israeli forces to sound sirens in the resort city of Eilat and launch an interceptor missile. Let's talk to our correspondent, Sarah Coates, watching events for us in Tel Aviv. Sarah, more action, more military action in the Red Sea. What more can you tell us?
You're certainly right, Jamie. Well, look, that interception there that you have just described has now been declared a false alarm. The IDF says that the sirens were actually activated when this interceptor missile was launched. Certainly just shows, though, how sky-high these tensions in the region are. And this, of course, comes, Jamie, after the US Central Command came out early this morning to say that it conducted a 4th round of strikes within a week on Houthi targets. It says it hit 14 Houthi missiles that were loaded, ready to fire. And of course, this is just the latest incident. It was late last night that a drone hit a US-flagged ship that was travelling through the Gulf of Aden. We do know that there was minor damage on board, no injuries, a small fire which was promptly put out. But look, this is certainly very worrying for global powers, of course, this spillover. And, you know, this is a very important shipping channel. The Houthis, though, they remain defiant. They say they will continue to attack ships there in the Red Sea for as long as Israeli forces remain in the Gaza Strip. Well, we've also heard from Iran's foreign minister. He came out speaking also about this to say that Washington's support of Israel is the root of insecurity in the region. So, look, this is certainly very worrying in a region that we will be watching very closely, Jamie.
Sarah, more broadly, the chief of the Israeli Defense Forces has been talking about the direction of the Gaza conflict.
Yeah, he certainly has. Well, look, let's move a little bit further north to Lebanon. The IDF Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, he visited troops there on that northern border late yesterday, saying that the likelihood of war with Lebanon is higher than before. And we do know that troops right now, they are training, they are simulating a potential attack inside Israel or actually going into Lebanon. So this is extremely concerning. And just over the last couple of hours, we do know that the IDF has struck a number of Hezbollah targets inside southern Lebanon. This is after the IDF said that 2 projectiles were fired from Lebanon into Israeli territory. They did land apparently in an open area, causing no destruction, no injuries. But in this region as well, it just goes to show how high these tensions are. Now, Reuters has spoken to some senior Lebanese officials a little earlier today as Washington really tries to cool things down. Reuters says that these officials said that Hezbollah rejects Washington's calls to cool tensions and also pull these troops back, these Hezbollah troops, from the border. So it's certainly very worrying. And look, another quote that we got there from Halevi yesterday, he said that Israel is increasing readiness, saying that Israel's goal basically is to return these residents back to their homes in the north. We know that since all of this kicked off, around 200,000 people have been evacuated from this northern area and they haven't been able to go home. So this is certainly a very, very concerning border also.
Sarah, thank you for that. Our correspondent, Sarah Coates in Israel. I just want to see if we can take you back now to Gaza and finish our chat with our correspondent Noor Harazin. Noor, what about the aid arriving through the Rafah crossing under this new Qatari-French agreement?
Well, yes, over the past days, Egypt opened the Rafah border to allow dozens of humanitarian aid trucks to enter the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, actually, Egypt allowed 98 trucks to enter Gaza, including 4 trucks loaded with medicine. This comes after the Qatari-French brokered medicine exchange deal here. Hamas member Musa Abu Marzouk said in a statement on social media this morning that the Red Cross in Gaza asked Hamas to provide medicine for the hostages, 45 hostages that need 140 kinds of medicine. Hamas from its side accepted if they will allow thousands of other kinds of medicine to enter the Gaza Strip for the patients and the injured in Gaza. He also said that this aid, this medicine aid, will be distributed on 4 main hospitals in Gaza, starting from the Ashifa Hospital in the north, Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital in Mar al-Gaza and Deir al-Balah, Al-Nasir Hospital in Khan Yunis, and also a small amount will go to Abu Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital here in Rafah. And this comes to ease the suffering of the people. It has been now 3 months without the entry of the medicine. People here reached the point where there is even no painkillers. So yes, the Palestinians are excited and hopeful about this deal. However, they are expecting more. They do expect Qatar to work on and negotiate a long-term ceasefire, a long-term truce here in Gaza.
Noor, thank you for that. Our correspondent Noor Harazin in Gaza. You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, Colombia's president tells us that new economic systems are needed if we're to beat the global climate crisis.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
I think it should be more global cooperation.
I would like to hear more the voice of the developing countries.
Globalization has lifted more than 1 billion people out of poverty.
The green transition has to happen. It's a necessity. Well, China and the United States are important powers in the world.
What unites us is much more than what divides us. And I believe China is committed to this agenda.
Join me, Juliet Mann, to set the agenda at these times every weekend on CGTN.
The 27th of January marks the 60th anniversary of China and France beginning their diplomatic relationship and starting a historic new chapter. We'll be covering the partnership in detail with week-long special coverage and meeting the bridge builders who have dedicated their lives to strengthening ties between the two countries. China-France 60 years, beginning Saturday, the 27th of January, on CGTN. Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. Pakistan launches missile strikes into Iran to target what it calls terrorist hideouts following cross-border attacks by Tehran. Our other headlines, Gaza officials say more than a dozen people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a house in Rafah, a designated safe zone. Now, modernise industry and get those consumers to go out and spend more. That's China's plan, two of a number of policies aimed at trying to revitalise growth. This all comes a day after rather patchy economic figures showing overall GDP of 5.2% for last year. Our correspondent Gao Ang reports.
Accelerating self-reliance and strength in science and technology and expanding domestic demand. The messages from the country's top economic planner, the National Development and Reform Commission, are clear.
We will vigorously promote new industrialization, strengthen capacity building for innovation, promote the transformation and upgrading of traditional industries, and develop the digital economy.
Official data shows China's GDP hit a record 126 trillion yuan in 2023, over 17 trillion US dollars. There are challenges such as relatively weak effective demand and overcapacity in some sectors. But officials say the general long-term trends driving China's economic recovery remain unchanged. And they are clear that China's continued opening up will bring cooperation opportunities to the rest of the world.
We'll work to promote the high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative, promote the stable scale and optimal structure of foreign trade, step up efforts to attract and utilize foreign investment, and improve the quality and level of overseas investment.
Officials promise to shore up confidence and optimize the business environment for private enterprises. Strengthening ecological protection, preventing pollution, and expanding renewable energy consumption also top their agenda.
Officials say increasing global demand for low-carbon and green products is driving the rapid growth of Chinese electric vehicles, lithium-ion battery, solar cell, and other exports. They say they will continue to optimize policies and boost innovation to promote the high-quality development of the new energy vehicle industry. Gao Ang, CGTN, Beijing.
Ireland is taking stock after China's Premier Li Chang's two-day visit saw both countries call for closer cooperation with some key announcements on travel and trade. Our correspondent Ken Brown reports now from Dublin.
A whistle-stop trip to Ireland. Short but extremely productive, Premier Li's visit yielded tangible results in the shape of visa-free travel and a resumption of beef exports to China. Economic ties continue to flourish between the two countries. Avalon is based in Dublin and is the second largest aviation leasing company in the world. They boast assets of over $30 billion and are co-owned by Chinese HNA Group.
The Irish-Chinese cooperation has really been exceptional over the past decade. It has really kicked into a level of cooperation that puts China as one of the core partners, markets for Irish businesses over the past 10 years, whether that's pharmaceutical, whether that's agriculture, whether that's aircraft leasing. And also, what we've seen is a hugely impressive.
Strong bilateral relations between Ireland and China extend beyond economic ties. This is University College Dublin, home to one of the biggest Confucius institutes in the world. This landmark project was equally co-funded by both Chinese and Irish governments, along with University College Dublin back in 2018. Around 6,000 people are studying Chinese through Dublin's Confucius Institute, and UCD is paired with colleges in Beijing, Xi'an and Guangzhou. Professor Wang Liming found UCD's Confucius Institute in 2006 and sees Ireland as an example in its business, diplomatic and cultural dealings with China.
So Ireland, as the developed country in Western Europe, could actually make this Sino-Irish relationship as a kind of a role model for the rest of the world to learn and to know what can be done between different system and a different culture and different countries.
Li Tang's visit to Ireland was his only European destination other than Davos, Switzerland on this trip, a strong indicator of the close ties between China and Ireland in a year when both countries celebrate 45 years of official diplomatic relations. Ken Brown, CGTN, Dublin.
China's foreign minister is flying to Brazil after ending his tour of Africa. Wang Yi wants to continue strengthening his country's ties with the global south. The visit marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations and comes as trade between the two countries reaches a record high. An Albanian court is set to rule on the legality of a deal with Italy for the country to process thousands of Europe-bound migrants. The agreement would involve up to 36,000 people being sent to facilities in northern Albania each year. The scheme has drawn criticism from human rights groups and evokes some comparisons with Britain's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. A prosecutor investigating an attack on a television studio in Ecuador last week has been shot dead. It's not yet clear whether Cesar Suarez's death is linked to the investigation. A state of emergency has been declared following days of unrest after two gang leaders escaped from prison. Hundreds of prison guards were taken hostage and explosions were reported in several cities. Now, police in France are demanding to be paid more during this summer's Olympic Games in Paris. Protests are being held across the country, with officers carrying out minimal duties only. Our correspondent Tony Waterman reports.
The unions are calling this a Black Thursday demonstration, and you can see here there are a couple hundred people that have gathered outside of Paris's City Hall. And what they've been saying is that without agreement, the Olympics will happen without them, that without agreement, things will just fly away, and they set off a bunch of balloons. These officers have three main demands. They want guarantees on summer holiday leave, bonuses of up to $2,200 for every police officer, and social support during the Olympics, in particular child care. But they say there's been a lack of communication from the Ministry of the Interior, especially around officers being brought in from other regions to Paris during the 3 weeks of the Games. Given the sheer size of the Olympics, the Games are expected to attract 15 million people. The government has called for 100% mobilization of the police to ensure public safety. Some 30,000 officers and soldiers are needed to secure the opening ceremony alone, which is going to take place along the Seine River. In exchange, the government is offering 10 working days of leave and bonuses of around $600, higher if officers show exceptional commitment. But these officers say it is simply not enough.
The problem is that all the police services are at breaking point because in addition to the Olympics, we already have the whole issue of security in the region to deal with.
The Olympics were decided in 2017, and so far the administration has not given us any answers about how we're going to look after our children this summer, because we're being asked to be 100% present with no bonus and no means of childcare.
We are capable of blockading all the police stations in France, the borders and the airports. This is a warning. If the government doesn't listen to us and give us concrete measures, we'll go even harder.
Officers aren't just protesting here in Paris, but in other parts of the country as well, including Toulouse, Dijon, and Brest. Now, the government wants to see these negotiations wrapped up by the end of the month. They want to know for certain that as the eyes of the world turn to France, that they have the security forces needed to make sure that this is a very safe Olympic Games. The Olympics now just about 6 months away. Tony Waterman, CGTN, Paris, France.
The Middle East conflict has been front and centre of the agenda at the Swiss ski resort of Davos in Switzerland, host, of course, to the World Economic Forum. Let's talk to our correspondent, Evangelo Sipsas, who's watching events for us there. Evangelo, the Israeli president has been delivering an address defending his country's military operation and its consequences in Gaza.
Well, yeah, the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, spoke today here in Davos. And right beside him, he put a picture of a 1-year-old who is still kept in Gaza as a hostage. He specifically pointed to that picture quite a lot, saying that it's not the only one. There's another 135 still hostages in Gaza, and the whole world needs to do more to bring those people back home. He specifically mentioned that what is going on right now in Gaza is somewhat justified because of the actions of Hamas on October 7th, but also what Iran has been doing, supporting also Hezbollah in the north, but also of what they're doing with their proxies, as he mentioned, the Houthis in the Red Sea. He also mentioned quite a lot that what is happening, the accusations from South Africa towards Israel that they're committing genocide in Gaza is just a hypocrisy, since Israel has been the one who's promoting humanitarian corridors and providing humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip. Let's have a listen.
It's a game of hypocrisy that South Africa is using the Convention Against Genocide, which was brought and enacted by the International Family of Nations following the worst atrocity of humankind, which is the Holocaust against the Jews in World War II, against the State of Israel, which is a nation state of the Jewish people defending itself under international law. I call upon the entire international community to stand with Israel and reject this claim.
Israel's president addressing the World Economic Forum in Davos. The cargo ship Tianzhou 7 has successfully docked with China's space station. It carried out a 3-hour docking procedure for the first time. The spacecraft is bringing essential supplies for the astronauts, including scientific equipment, fuel and food. Tianzhou 7 launched on Wednesday from southern China. The headlines again. Pakistan launches missile strikes into Iran to target what it calls terrorist hideouts following cross-border attacks by Tehran. Our other headlines at the World Economic Forum, as we've just been hearing, Israel's president says his country is fighting Hamas to protect other countries. This as more Palestinians are killed in Israeli strikes in southern Gaza. And modernise industry and get the consumers to spend more. China sets out its plans to drive growth and development. And that is the world today. Thank you for watching. There's more news on the CGTN Europe channel on the Telegram app, or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. We're back with more news at the top of this hour. Coming up next, it's World Insight. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.